Welcome, curious minds, to the deep dive. Today, we're plunging headfirst into a topic that, well, quite literally shapes all of our lives: money, and more specifically, how we think about building genuine financial independence.
Yeah.
You know that classic advice, right? The one most of us heard growing up, that familiar mantra: study hard, get good grades, find a high paying job with great benefits.
Oh, yeah, the standard playbook.
Exactly. It's the tried and true master plan almost all of us diligently followed or, at least earnestly tried to. It sounds so simple, so foolproof, really.
It does on the surface.
Mm.
But the reality, as Sharon Lechter, the co-author of Rich Dad, Poor Dad, points out, is often quite different.
Right. She talks about her own experience following that plan perfectly, right? Honors graduate, top accounting firm.
Exactly. Her husband, too, engineer and lawyer,
Yeah.
looked like the perfect setup for success, early retirement, the whole package.
But that wasn't quite how it played out for them.
Not at all. They found themselves changing jobs multiple times. Those old pension plans, they rarely vested fully.
So that safety net wasn't really there.
It wasn't. Their retirement ended up depending almost entirely on their own contributions. The financial ground, it really shifted under them.
And it wasn't just about pensions vanishing. Sharon tells this really striking story back in 1996, right? Her son came home from school totally disillusioned.
Yeah, bored stiff. Said he was tired of studying things he felt he'd, never actually use.
And when she gave him the standard line, well, if you don't get good grades, you won't get into college, what did he say?
His comeback was immediate. Something like, regardless of whether I go to college, I'm going to be rich. Just like that.
Wow, that's quite a statement from a kid.
It really was. And it wasn't just teenage rebellion. He was actually observing the world. He started listing examples, Michael Jordan, Madonna,
Superstars.
right? And Bill Gates, the famous Harvard dropout who became, well, Bill Gates. He even mentioned a baseball pitcher, described as maybe not academically gifted, earning over $4 million a year.
So his point was crystal clear.
Absolutely. Getting a good education and making good grades no longer ensures success. He saw downsizing, right-sizing, saw college grads earning less than their parents sometimes. He saw the game had changed.
But the advice hadn't caught up.
Exactly. The advice was stuck in the past.
And Sharon also points out this huge gap, right? The lack of actual financial education in schools. It's almost criminal, isn't it?
It really is. Kids getting credit cards before they even finish high school with zero understanding of money or, crucially, compound interest.
Which can work for you or absolutely destroy you.
Precisely. The whole focus seems to be on spending, on getting stuff now, not on saving, investing, building for the future. It's setting people up for failure, frankly.
It really is. That lack of basic financial literacy leaves people totally unprepared for, well, the complexities of modern finance. It's like sending them out without a map.
Yeah, no compass, nothing.
So that's exactly what this deep dive is all about today. Our mission is to unpack this changing financial landscape. We're going to contrast that conventional wisdom, the stuff that might be leaving you feeling stuck, maybe even falling behind, with a different approach, often counterintuitive. We'll get into the crucial distinctions, the hidden knowledge and the practical steps that can actually put you on a path to real financial freedom. So get ready to maybe rethink some things about money and success. Okay, so if that traditional path isn't working and the advice is outdated, where do people even start looking for answers? How did Sharon Lechter find this alternative path?
Well, her own search really kicked into high gear when her oldest son, who was a college freshman at the time, got completely tangled up in credit card debt.
Oh, wow. Nightmare scenario for a parent.
Totally. So after helping him sort it out, cutting up the cards, she made it her mission to find some kind of, financial education program for her kids. And that's when her husband heard about Robert Kiyosaki and this unique educational product he was developing.
And that product was?
It was a board game called Cash Flow. Sharon described it as looking a bit like Monopoly, colorful board and all that, but with a really different purpose.
Okay. How so?
It had two tracks. There was the inner track, which Robert called the rat race.
Ah, the famous rat race.
That's the one. And then an outer track, the fast track, which was designed to simulate how wealthy people actually operate and build wealth in the real world.
Yeah.
The whole point of the game was to figure out how to get out of the rat race.
And how did Robert define that rat race? What does that actually look like for most people?
He painted a pretty vivid picture. It starts with school, good grades, maybe college or grad school, all aimed at getting that quote-unquote safe, secure job. Doctor, lawyer, government worker, maybe military.
Traditional, respectable paths.
Right. Then the money starts coming in. Credit cards show up in the mail almost instantly,
Oh, yeah.
and the shopping begins. You meet someone, get married, maybe 2 incomes now, which feels great.
Seems like you're on the right track.
Exactly. Future looks bright. So what's next? Buy a house, buy a car, get a big TV, go on vacations, have kids.
The whole checklist of the middle-class dream.
Mm-hmm. But this is where the cycle really ramps up and becomes, well, often a trap. The need for cash just explodes.
Because all those things cost money. Continuously.
Continuously.
Mhm.
So you work harder. You chase promotions, raises. Maybe more kids mean a bigger house, so more debt. Maybe you go back to school for more skills, hoping to earn more.
Trying to keep up.
Trying to keep up. And yeah, your income might go up, but so do your expenses. And crucially, so do your taxes, income tax, property tax, Social Security, Medicare.
The silent drains.
Big time. You get a bigger paycheck, but you're still wondering, where does it all go? Maybe you try investing a bit, put some money in mutual funds for retirement. But that underlying cycle, as Robert described it, just keeps repeating.
Work hard, get into debt, repeat.
Exactly. Work hard all their lives, wind up in debt, and the process repeats into another hardworking generation. That's the rat race in a nutshell.
So Sharon played this cash flow game. How did she do being a CPA?
She actually got out of the rat race in about 50 minutes, which was way faster than most.
Okay, that makes sense given her background.
It does. But what really hit her was seeing these other players, educated, successful adults, like a banker, a business owner, a computer programmer, how little they actually knew about basic accounting and investing.
Really? Even the banker?
Even the banker. They struggled with the fundamental link between the income statement, money in, money out, and the balance sheet, what you own, what you owe.
The absolute basics of financial literacy.
The absolute basics. It was a huge so what moment for her. The banker literally said he never knew how to apply it to real life. He knew the theory, but not the practice.
Wow.
And Sharon's daughter played too. And she had this amazing insight. She realized, hey, I can choose a job based on the work I want to do, not just because of job security or benefits or pay.
That's liberating.
Totally. She saw that if she understood these financial principles, she wouldn't be trapped worrying about the traditional things in the same way. It changed her whole outlook on her future.
And Robert Kiyosaki himself, the guy behind the game in the book, he walked the talk, right? Retired young.
Yeah, retired at 47. He's a self-taught entrepreneur, and like Sharon, he's really concerned about this growing gap between the haves and the have-nots.
He sees the traditional advice as actively harmful now.
He does. He says, very directly, today, the most dangerous advice you can give a child is go to school, get good grades, and look for a safe, secure job. That is old advice, and it's bad advice. He thinks it's just too risky in today's economy.
So that leads us to his core philosophy, the two dads. Can you explain that?
Sure. Robert had these two major father figures. His biological dad was highly educated, PhD, head of education in Hawaii, very smart man.
Okay, the poor dad in the title.
Right, paradoxically. Then there was his best friend's dad, who dropped out after 8th grade but became one of Hawaii's richest men. That was his rich dad.
Quite the contrast.
Huge contrast. Both successful in their careers, both worked incredibly hard, both earned a lot of money, but their financial outcomes were worlds apart. One struggled financially his whole life, left bills behind. The other built millions, left a legacy.
And their advice about money must have been completely different.
Diametrically opposed. His poor, educated dad often said things like the love of money is the root of all evil.
A common sentiment.
Very. But his rich dad countered with, the lack of money is the root of all evil.
Provocative.
Very.
Mm-hmm.
And having these two strong, conflicting viewpoints forced Robert to think. He couldn't just passively accept one side. He had to compare, analyze, choose for himself. He says that active thinking, not just accepting, was crucial to his education.
That makes sense. It forces critical engagement.
Exactly. And it highlights this massive issue. Money skills, financial literacy, it's taught at home, mostly, not in school.
Right, schools teach you academics, maybe job skills.
But not how money works. Which is why, as Robert says, you see incredibly smart people, doctors, lawyers, accountants with great grades, still struggling financially their whole lives. They lack the financial skill set. It's a huge missing piece.
Okay, so if school isn't teaching us this crucial financial skill set, and home maybe gave us outdated or incomplete advice, what's the starting point for this alternative path? It sounds like it begins with a pretty fundamental mindset shift.
Absolutely. It's about challenging core beliefs, especially how we approach problems and money itself. One of the most powerful examples Robert gives is the difference between saying, I can't afford it, and asking, how can I afford it?
Just changing the words, how significant is that really?
It's huge psychologically.
Yeah.
Rich Dad actually forbade saying, I can't afford it. Why? Because as he put it, your brain stops working. It's an escape hatch, a dead end.
Lets you off the hook.
Exactly. But asking, how can I afford it, forces your brain to engage, to problem solve, to get creative. He saw the first phrase as mental laziness, the second as mental exercise.
That's a great way to put it. And this ties into the dad's different mindsets again, right? Poor dad focusing on security.
Right. Poor Dad was focused on pay raises, retirement plans, benefits, job protection, what Robert calls an entitlement mentality. Rich Dad, on the other hand, believed in total financial self-reliance. He advocated for creating jobs, creating opportunities, not just finding them.
It really highlights the power of our thoughts.
Yeah.
Robert's poor dad saying, I'll never be rich.
And sadly, that became his reality. It was a self-fulfilling prophecy. Rich Dad, even when he was temporarily broke after a setback, always referred to himself as rich.
He had that core belief.
He did. He'd say, there's a difference between being poor and being broke. Broke is temporary, poor is eternal. It's a state of mind.
And what about the I'm not interested in money line?
Ah, yes. Poor Dad would say that, even though he worked 8 hours a day for money. Rich Dad saw that as, well, a denial of truth. His view, money is power. Ignoring its importance when you dedicate your life to earning it didn't make sense to him.
This connects to that lesson about life pushing you around. Can you explain that? Rich dad paid him almost nothing and ignored him. Seems harsh.
It does sound harsh, but it was a deliberate lesson. Rich Dad paid him 10 cents an hour, then basically ignored him for weeks. The point wasn't cruelty, it was to simulate how life works.
How so?
Life, Rich Dad said, just sort of pushes you around. Each push is life saying, wake up, there's something I want you to learn. You have a choice. Let it push you. Feel like a victim. Get angry and push back, but often blame the wrong things, your boss, your job, whatever, or learn the lesson and move on.
So don't just react, learn.
Exactly. The trap is blaming external factors or just waiting for some big break. Rich Dad warned against playing it too safe, being terrified of risk, and ending up regretting not going for it.
And Robert makes this really interesting point that more money doesn't necessarily solve problems, it can actually make them worse.
Yeah, it's counterintuitive, isn't it? But he argues more money often accelerates problems by highlighting tragic human flaws.
What kind of flaws are we talking about?
Things like poor self-discipline, the need for instant gratification, maybe deep-seated beliefs about deserving to spend everything. If those patterns exist, more money just means more fuel for the fire.
So if your pattern is to spend everything, a raise just means more spending.
Pretty much. Usually on liabilities, too. It's like that analogy of the donkey chasing a carrot on a stick. People chase paychecks, raises, job security driven by fear and desire, but they never stop to question if that chase is actually getting them anywhere long term.
Just leads to the next carrot.
Always another carrot. They're stuck in the loop.
So the key is stopping the emotions from doing the thinking. That sounds simple, but it's hard. Like the I need a job thought driven by fear.
Right. That's an emotional, short-term reaction. Rich Dad would push back. Is a job the best long-term solution to this fear? His answer was usually no. It's a temporary fix for a long-term issue.
What are some other examples of those emotional thoughts we should watch out for?
Oh, there are plenty. Things like everyone has to work, or judgmental thoughts like the richer crooks, or self-justifications, I deserve this raise, or the dangerous comfort of this job is secure.
So how do you break that emotional cycle?
The simple trick, the mental interrupt, is to ask yourself, is there something I'm missing here? It forces a pause. It allows for observation and clear thinking instead of just reacting. Learning to tell the difference between emotional reactions and clear thought in yourself and others, Robert says that's a priceless life skill, a financial superpower, really.
Okay, we've covered the mindset shift, challenging those core beliefs, but how does this translate into actual action? How do we manage our money differently day to day based on this? What's the absolute first principle?
The foundation, the bedrock of financial literacy, boils down to one incredible simple rule. Rich Dad called it the only rule to get rich. You must know the difference between an asset and a liability and buy assets.
Okay, and he followed that up with,
Rich people acquire assets. The poor and middle class acquire liabilities, but they think they are assets. That's the crux of it.
it sounds so simple. Define asset and liability again, just plainly.
Super simple. An asset puts money in your pocket. A liability takes money out of your pocket. End of story.
No complicated finance degree needed for that.
None at all. The problem, Robert found, is that adults have been educated differently, maybe focus too much on theory, and they're often too proud to admit when something simple doesn't quite click or contradicts what they think they know.
The ego gets in the way.
Exactly. Rich Dad was all about KISS. Keep it simple. Stupid. It's not about the words, it's about the numbers. It's about the cash flow. As he said, if you cannot read the numbers, you cannot tell an asset from a hole in the ground.
Okay, so give us a classic example. What do people commonly think is an asset, but based on that cash flow definition is actually a liability?
The number one example for most people, their own home,
Mm-hmm.
their primary residence.
Whoa, okay. That's going to challenge a lot of assumptions. Why is my house typically a liability?
Think about the cash flow. Mortgage payments, interest primarily, for years. Property taxes, insurance, maintenance, utilities. All that money flows out of your pocket month after month, year after year.
Okay, I see the outflow. When could it become an asset?
It becomes an asset only if it puts money in your pocket. Like if you rent out a room or the whole thing, and the rental income is more than all those expenses. Or if it's purely an investment property generating positive cash flow. Otherwise, functionally, it's a liability.
And a car, definitely a liability.
Oh, absolutely. Loses value the second you drive it off the lot, plus ongoing costs for payments, insurance, gas, repairs, pure outflow. Classy liability often mistaken for an asset.
Let's visualize this with those cash flow patterns Robert described. Start with a poor person, or maybe someone young just starting out.
Right. Their pattern is simple. Income comes in from a job. It goes straight out to expenses, taxes, rent, food, clothes, transportation, maybe some fun. Typically, no real assets, often no significant liabilities yet either, just inflow, outflow.
Okay. Now, the middle class pattern, this is where the rat race really shows up, right?
Exactly. Income still comes mainly from a job, but it flows out to way more things. Taxes, food, clothes, fun, transport, plus mortgage payments, car payments, credit card payments, and critically, their liability column grows significantly. Mortgage, consumer loans, credit cards.
And what's typically missing from their picture?
The asset column. There's little or nothing there generating passive income. All the income relies on their job. That imbalance is the heart of the struggle. That's the rat race diagrammed.
Now, contrast that with the wealthy person's cash flow. Where does their income primarily come from?
It comes from their assets. Stocks generating dividends, bonds paying interest, notes receivable, income generating real estate providing rent, intellectual property earning royalties. The assets do the heavy lifting.
So the money flows from the asset column to the income column.
Precisely. And their liabilities, usually very low or non-existent relative to their assets. Their personal expenses are covered by the income from their assets, not primarily from a job. It's the story of the cash flow, how money is managed after it's earned, that makes the difference, not just how much you earn initially.
Robert calls that typical middle-class journey a financial nightmare. Walk us through how that nightmare often unfolds.
It starts innocently enough. Young couple, maybe two incomes, they save up, buy that dream house. Incomes might rise over time, but so do the expenses. And the biggest expense, often overlooked, taxes. Income tax, sure, but also Social Security, Medicare money taken before you even see it.
Okay, taxes hit hard, then the liabilities pile up.
They spiral. The house brings property taxes, upkeep costs, that big mortgage. Then comes the new car, new furniture, appliances often bought on credit. Suddenly, that liability column is overflowing with mortgage debt, car loans, credit card debt. They're trapped, working harder just to pay the bills on the things they bought.
Just servicing the debt.
Exactly. Stuck in the rat race.
And sometimes they get offered those bill consolidation loans, right? Roll everything into the mortgage. Seems helpful.
It seems helpful because it lowers the monthly payments temporarily. But it's often a trap. You roll high-interest credit card debt into your 30-year mortgage. You feel relieved, but then what happens?
The credit cards are empty again, ready for more spending.
Bingo. You haven't solved the underlying spending habit. You've just stretched the debt out longer and often end up deeper in the hole. Robert calls it high-risk living caused by weak financial education. Even with raises, they fall further behind.
This also explains why net worth can be misleading.
Hugely misleading. People calculate net worth including things like their car, furniture, personal belongings, what Robert calls expensive junk in asset terms. And they often use inflated opinion-based values for their primary home.
But those things don't generate cash flow.
Right. And if you actually sell those supposed assets, like your primary home, you often get hit with capital gains tax, reducing the actual cash you walk away with. That new car loses maybe 25% of its value instantly. It's a liability clear as day. We need to distinguish between things that have value and things that generate income.
So if the house and car aren't the assets we should focus on, what are the real income-generating assets Robert talks about?
Okay, key categories he lists. First, businesses that don't require your presence. They need to be managed by others or run themselves. If you have to work in it every day, it's still basically a job, not a passive asset in this sense.
Got it. What else?
Then you have your more traditional investments, stocks, bonds, mutual funds. Critically, income-generating real estate rental properties where the rent covers expenses and puts cash in your pocket.
So not just any real estate, but cash-flowing real estate.
Exactly. Also, things like notes, basically IOUs, where people pay you interest. Royalties from intellectual property books, music, patents. His broad definition is pretty much anything else that has value, produces income, or appreciates, and has a ready market.
This ties into that Buckminster Fuller definition of wealth, right? It's not about how much stuff you have.
Not at all. Bucky Fuller defined wealth as a person's ability to survive so many number of days forward. Or if I stopped working today, how long could I survive? It's about resilience, sustainability.
So how do you measure that?
It's measured purely by the cash flow from the asset column compared with the expense column. Can your assets cover your living costs without you needing to work?
That's the goal then. Build assets until their income covers expenses.
That's financial independence. Once you hit that point, any extra cash flow can be reinvested back into buying more assets. That's how you get richer, truly richer, beyond just surviving.
That shift from focusing on income to focusing on asset cash flow is huge. And you mentioned another key secret of the rich, mind your own business. How does the famous Ray Kroc McDonald's story illustrate that?
It's a fantastic illustration. Kroc is giving a talk to MBA students, asked them, what business am I in? They all said, hamburgers? Naturally.
Makes sense.
But Kroc corrected them. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm not in the hamburger business. My business is real estate.
Wow. Explain that.
His focus, his real business, wasn't just selling franchise rights. It was acquiring the land under the franchise locations. The franchisee was essentially paying for the land, which McDonald's Corporation then owned.
So the hamburger business funded the real estate business.
Precisely. Today, McDonald's is one of the largest real estate owners globally. That was Kroc minding his real business. Robert says this is secret number 3. Mind your own business. Financial struggles often come from spending your life building someone else's business, your employers, and having nothing to show for it in your asset column.
That clarifies the difference between your profession and your business. Your job isn't your business.
Exactly. Your profession is what you do for money banker, teacher, engineer. Your business is your asset column. It's what you own that generates income independently.
So when people focus only on getting a raise or a better job,
they're focusing solely on the income column, usually from their profession. They're not focused on building their business, their asset column. And often, even if they get that raise, the extra money doesn't go into buying assets. It just gets consumed by higher lifestyle expenses or liabilities.
which leads us to what Robert calls the biggest secret of the rich corporations. Why are they so powerful?
Well, historically, they became popular with sailing ships as a way to limit risk. If a ship sank, investors only lost what they put into that voyage, not their personal wealth.
Okay, risk limitation. But the bigger advantage today is taxes.
Absolutely.
Right.
Especially after income tax became a major factor. The structure gives corporations a massive tax advantage over individuals.
Okay, break that down. How does a corporation pay less tax than an individual earning the same amount?
It's about the order of operations. An individual, an employee, typically earns money, gets taxed on it, and then tries to live on what is left.
Yep, sounds familiar.
A corporation, on the other hand, earns money, spends everything it legitimately can on business expenses, and is then taxed only on what's left over, the profit.
So expenses come out before taxes?
Exactly. This means the wealthy, operating through corporations, can legally pay for many things with pre-tax dollars. Think certain travel structured as business meetings, car expenses, health insurance, professional development, even some meals, all deducted before the profit is calculated and taxed.
That's a huge structural advantage, and the tax rates themselves are often lower too.
Often, yes. Corporate income tax rates can be significantly lower than the top individual income tax rates. Plus, there are specific legal loopholes mainly accessible through corporate or sophisticated structures.
Like that 1031 exchange for real estate you mentioned.
Right. Section 1031 lets you sell an investment property and defer the capital gains tax if you roll the proceeds into buying another, usually bigger, similar property. You can keep doing this, trading up, deferring taxes, potentially for decades. It's a powerful wealth-building tool the average person often misses out on because they aren't set up correctly or, aren't minding that side of their business.
And corporations also offer protection from lawsuits. How does that work?
It's about creating legal separation. By holding assets within corporations or trusts, wealthy individuals can make it look like they personally own nothing.
Yep.
They control everything, but the legal ownership resides with the entity.
Creating a shield.
A very effective shield.
Yeah.
It makes it much harder for lawsuits to penetrate and seize personal assets. The poor and middle class, contrastingly, tend to own everything in their own name. House, car, savings account, making them far more vulnerable if they get sued or face large tax bills. Robert sort of provocatively links this to the Robin Hood mentality, society's tendency to want to take from the rich, often legally through taxes or lawsuits.
So the rich play the game smarter, as Rich Dad said. They don't just let the tax man push them around.
They hire experts, smart lawyers, savvy accountants. Rich Dad taught Robert it's far cheaper in the long run to pay top dollar for good advice to navigate the system legally and efficiently, rather than paying excess taxes or losing assets due to ignorance. Be smart, he said, and you won't be pushed around as much. Leverage expert knowledge.
This really flips the script on traditional advice. My dad always said, work your way up the corporate ladder. Rich Dad's response.
So simple, so powerful. Why not own the ladder?
Yeah. Robert said that seemed impossible at first, but then it clicked. He started his own business while still working.
Exactly. While he was still working at Xerox after the Marines, he formed his first real estate holding company. He started building his own ladder, his own asset column, on the side. Money from his corporation started working for him, eventually allowing him to leave the employee rat race entirely.
It shows that risk is lower when you actually understand the investment, when you know the game.
Absolutely. Robert wasn't just gambling. He was applying his growing financial literacy, understanding accounting, cash flow, market cycles, to make calculated moves in an area he was actively learning about. It's about being an active participant in building your assets based on knowledge. Even if you still have a day job, it's often a parallel process, not necessarily a sudden jump.
Okay, we've got the mindset, the asset liability distinction, the corporate advantage, but knowing isn't always doing. Robert identifies 5 big obstacles that stop even financially literate people from actually building wealth. What's the first one?
The first, and maybe the biggest, is fear. Specifically, the fear of losing money.
Which everyone feels, right? Even rich people.
Everyone feels it. The difference isn't feeling the fear, it's how you handle fear. It's how you handle losing. It's how you handle failure. That's what separates people.
He talks about the Texas attitude.
Yeah, kind of metaphorically. That attitude of you're going to go broke, go big. Texans, he says, don't hide their failures. They get inspired by them. Like, remember the Alamo. It's about resilience.
So winners are inspired by losing. Losers are defeated by it.
Pretty much. Think John D. Rockefeller.
Yeah.
I always tried to turn every disaster into an opportunity. It's about reframing failure not as an endpoint, but as feedback, as a learning opportunity.
That's huge. How does this fear manifest in investing? He says most people play not to lose.
Yeah, it leads to overly conservative strategies. People stick with balanced portfolios, CDs, low-yield bonds, super diversified mutual funds, because they're terrified of any loss. Safety first, always.
But that safety comes at the cost of potential growth.
Exactly. Robert argues that if you have little money and want to get rich, you need to be focused, not balanced, at least initially. Look at the greats, Edison, Gates, Trump, Soros. They weren't balanced. They were intensely focused. They put a lot of your eggs in a few baskets. They understood deeply. Focus builds wealth. Over-diversification when you have little capital often just guarantees mediocrity.
Okay, obstacle number 2, cynicism. The voice that says, it won't work.
Right, the inner or outer, Chicken Little, always crying, the sky is falling. It's all the negative noise from friends, family, media, even your own doubts.
Peter Lynch called it noise, too, right? Distractions.
Exactly. Robert gives examples like people building bomb shelters in the 50s instead of investing, missing huge market gains, or avoiding potentially high return investments like tax loans because someone says, oh, that's risky, without actually analyzing it. Fear and rumor override logic.
And the antidote is analysis. Cynics criticize, winners analyze.
Precisely. Analysis opens your eyes to opportunities cynics miss. The classic example. Cynic says about rental property, I don't want to fix toilets. End of story. Winner analyzes, okay, how can I own this without fixing toilets? Answer, find a good property manager.
Address the problem, don't just shut down.
Right. Or in stocks, the cynic says, I don't want to lose money, so they never invest. The winner analyzes and learns about tools like stop-loss orders to manage the risk of loss. It's about finding solutions, not just seeing roadblocks. Remember Colonel Sanders? Rejected over 1,000 times. He didn't criticize the situation. He analyzed his approach and kept frying his chicken.
Obstacle 3 is laziness, but the tricky kind laziness disguised as busyness. How does that work?
It's subtle but common. People stay incredibly busy work, family, errands, hobbies, often as a way to avoid dealing with something more fundamental they don't want to face. Maybe it's their health, a relationship issue, or very often their financial situation.
So the busyness is a distraction.
It's a form of procrastination, yeah. Keeping the schedule packed prevents quiet time for reflection or tackling the hard stuff. It's laziness by staying constantly in motion on less important things.
And the cure Robert suggests is a little greed. That sounds controversial.
It is provocative. But he argues that what we often label negatively as greed, the desire for a better life, nice things, more freedom, providing for family, is actually a powerful, positive motivator.
So tap into the what's in it for me.
Exactly, the WIIFM. If you're avoiding something financially beneficial, ask yourself honestly what positive outcome you desire from doing it. What's the reward? That desire, that little bit of greed, can overcome the laziness or inertia. He even says guilt is worse than greed because guilt just paralyzes you. Desire can actually drive progress.
Number 4, bad habits. Robert says habits shape our lives more than education. What's the key financial habit?
The absolute cornerstone habit is pay yourself first.
Meaning,
The moment money comes in, before you pay any bills, before you pay the rent or the credit card company or anyone else, you take a set portion and put it toward your asset column, savings, investments, whatever your plan is.
even if you're short on cash for bills, that sounds stressful.
It is stressful initially, but that's the point. That pressure forces you to get creative, to find other income sources, to manage your expenses better, to become financially smarter and more active. If you always pay yourself last, after all the bills, there's usually nothing left, and there's no pressure to improve.
So the pressure is actually beneficial.
It forces growth and discipline. The rich prioritize building their assets first. The poor and middle class pay everyone else first and hope something is left over. You have to build the discipline not to raid those savings or investments just because bills are due.
Okay, and the final obstacle, number 5, arrogance, defined as ego plus ignorance.
Yeah, a dangerous combination. Arrogance here means acting like you know everything, especially when you don't. It's being unwilling to admit ignorance about a financial topic or investment.
Why is that so bad?
Because what I know makes me money. What I don't know loses me money. If you're arrogant, you pretend to know things you don't, you dismiss advice, you don't ask questions, you basically shut down the learning process.
So what's the antidote?
Humility. When you realize you're ignorant about something, a type of investment, a tax strategy, the intelligent response is to start educating yourself by finding an expert in the field or find a book. True intelligence welcomes new ideas. Arrogance rejects them. Listening, Robert stresses, is far more important than talking when it comes to learning.
Okay, so we know the pitfalls. Fear, cynicism, laziness, bad habits, arrogance. How do we actively overcome them and start building that asset column? Robert gives 10 actionable steps, starting with finding a strong why.
That's step 1. You need a reason greater than reality, the power of spirit. Wanting to be rich is easy to say, but the path is hard. You need deep emotional wants and don't wants to keep you going when things get tough.
What were Robert's reasons?
His don't wants were powerful. Didn't want to work forever, hated being an employee, resented his poor dad missing his games due to work, didn't want the government taking most of his wealth at death. His wants? Freedom to travel, financial independence while young, having money work for him. Without strong reasons like these, the effort seems too much, and people quit.
Makes sense. Step 2 is about daily action. Choose daily the power of choice.
Yeah, this brings it right down to the ground level.
Mm.
Every dollar you get, you make a choice. Spend it foolishly. You're choosing to be poor. Spend it on liabilities. You're choosing the middle-class rat race. Invest it in your mind and in assets. You're choosing wealth.
It's a conscious decision every day with every dollar.
Robert says he chose to be rich, and he makes that choice daily. He notes most people, maybe 90%, find being rich too much hassle and make excuses like, I'm not interested in money. But for him, it's an active, ongoing commitment reflected in his daily financial actions.
Step 3, invest first in education. This is core to what we do here. Your mind is your greatest asset.
Absolutely. You choose what goes into your brain. So many people jump into buying investments before investing and learning how to invest. That's backwards.
So take courses, read books, listen to experts.
Definitely. Robert still attends seminars regularly. He talks about a $385 real estate course that he says made him millions and bought his freedom. He also devoured audio tapes today. That's podcasts, audiobooks, learning from people like Peter Lynch. Being humble enough to listen and learn is key. Arrogant people think they already know it all, so they don't learn.
Step 4 is about your network. Choose friends carefully, the power of association. Who you hang out with matters financially.
Immensely. Robert noticed his wealthy friends actually talk about money strategies, deals, ideas, not bragging, just interested discussion. His struggling friends. They avoid the topic or are full of negativity of the Chicken Littles.
To surround yourself with people who are playing the game you want to play.
And learn from them. Be wary of taking financial advice from people who are fearful or struggling. Wise investors often buy when things are unpopular, when the Chicken Littles are panicking. They get positioned before the wave hits. Having a network that shares reliable information, legal insider knowledge from trusted connections is also invaluable. Your network influences your thinking and your opportunities.
Step 5. Master a formula. Then learn a new one. The power of learning quickly. What's a money-making formula?
Think of it like a recipe or a specific strategy. Robert learned a formula for buying foreclosures in a weekend class. He applied it rigorously, made millions. But crucially, when that formula got crowded or less effective, he didn't just stick with it.
He adapted.
He moved on, researched, and learned new formulas. In today's fast-paced world, he says, it's not just what you know that gets outdated fast, it's how fast you learn new strategies. Continuous learning is priceless.
Step 6. Pay your brokers well, the power of good advice. This goes against the grain of always looking for the cheapest option.
Totally against it. Robert believes in paying top dollar for good professionals. Attorneys, accountants, real estate brokers, stockbrokers. Why? Because if they're truly good, their advice and services should make you far more money or save you far more money than they cost.
Information is valuable.
Priceless. A good broker is your eyes and ears in the market, providing insights and saving you time. Find professionals who have your best interests at heart, who are building their own asset columns too, not just salespeople pushing products.
Step 7 is intriguing. Get assets for free, the power of being savvy. How do you get an asset for free?
It's about strategy, not literal freebies. The goal is to structure deals where you get your initial investment capital back relatively quickly, but you still retain ownership of the income-producing asset.
Can you give an example?
He talks about buying a property, and through rental income or appreciation, recouping his initial down payment within a few years. After that point, the asset continues to generate cash flow, essentially for free from a risk perspective, because his initial capital is back in his pocket, ready for the next deal. He did this with stocks too. Buy, let it appreciate, sell enough to get his original money back, and let the remaining free shares ride. It's about smart capital rotation and risk management. Ray Kroc did this with the land under McDonald's.
Step 8 reverses common behavior. Assets buy luxuries, the power of focus. Buy luxuries last.
Yes, this is critical discipline. The rich buy luxuries after their assets have generated enough income to pay for them. The poor and middle class often buy luxuries first, usually on credit, trying to look rich, but digging themselves deeper into debt.
He tells that story about the teenager wanting a car.
Great story. Friend's son wants a car, dad gives him $3,000, but says, you have to turn this into $6,000 by trading stocks, then you can have the car.
Wow, trial by fire. What happened?
The kid got hooked.
Yeah.
Learned about investing, read the Wall Street Journal, watched CNBC. He actually lost interest in the car itself because he found the game of investing more exciting. The lesson: use your desire for luxuries to motivate you to invest first, to build the assets that will eventually buy those luxuries without creating debt.
Step 9. The need for heroes, the power of myth. Emulate successful people.
Absolutely. As kids, we have heroes we try to imitate. Robert says we often lose that as adults, but we shouldn't. He has financial heroes, Trump for deals, Buffett for investing, Soros for market timing. He studies them.
How does that help?
Heroes tap into a tremendous source of raw genius. They make complex things look achievable. Seeing their success makes you think, if they can do it, maybe I can too. It provides inspiration and practical models to follow.
And the final step, number 10, brings it all together. Teach, and you shall receive the power of giving.
Yes. Both of Robert's dads were teachers and givers. Rich dad firmly believed that if you want something, you first need to give it away. If he needed money, he'd consciously give money to his church or charity, trusting it would come back multiplied.
That requires real faith and abundance.
It does. He felt poor people were often more greedy in the sense of holding on too tightly to what little they had. True wealth comes from providing value others want. And crucially, the act of teaching what you know deeply reinforces your own learning. The more you teach someone who wants to learn, the more you learn yourself. Giving creates flow.
Wow. That is an incredibly powerful set of principles and really actionable steps. It definitely challenges so much conventional wisdom about money. When you put it all together, financial intelligence isn't just one thing, is it? It's this blend of skills.
It's a synergy, exactly.
Yeah.
Accounting, investing, marketing, law, understanding how these pieces fit together. Plus that crucial mindset shift we talked about.
Robert has that final example, right? The friends saving for college.
Yeah, it ties it all together beautifully. Friend was diligently saving $300 a month in a mutual fund for his kids' college. Hard work, slow progress. This is back in '91. Phoenix real estate market was down.
Opportunity.
Big time. Robert suggested using a $7,000 savings not just for the mutual fund, but as a down payment on an income-generating house, using a creative financing technique, a non-qualifying loan.
Okay, so leveraging the savings instead of just accumulating.
Exactly. He bought a house for $79K from a motivated seller. After expenses, the house actually put $125 in his pocket each month. The plan was just to hold it, let the tenant pay down the mortgage slowly.
But the market changed.
Dramatically. Just 3 years later, someone offered him $156,000 for the house. Huge gain. But instead of just taking the cash and paying taxes,
He used that 1031 exchange.
bingo. He rolled the nearly $80,000 in equity, tax-deferred, into a bigger investment, a mini storage facility. Now, his kids' college fund goal of $400K, easily achievable, all starting from $7 and applying financial intelligence instead of just brute force saving. Huge difference.
That perfectly illustrates using financial intelligence instead of hard work to achieve the same goal. Much faster, much more effective.
It really does. And it underscores Robert's core message. Money is only an idea. If you want more, you don't just work harder, you change your thinking. Every self-made wealthy person started small, with an idea, and built on it.
It's not work hard and grow rich, it's think and grow rich. Learn to make money work for you.
That's the ultimate goal, making your life easier, happier, more fulfilling by mastering the game of money.
So it really comes down to that daily choice. With every single dollar that comes into your hand, you, the listener, you have the power to determine your destiny. Spend it foolishly, you choose poor. Spend it on liabilities, you choose the middle-class rat race.
But invest it in your mind, invest in learning how to acquire assets. And you choose wealth. You choose financial freedom. The choice is always yours.
And maybe the final choice is to share this knowledge, pass it on, especially to the next generation.
Absolutely. Choose to share this with your children. Prepare them for the world that awaits. Because as Robert points out, likely no one else will.
A really powerful thought to end on. Thank you for walking us through that. This has been a genuinely eye-opening deep dive into financial freedom. Hopefully it's given all of you listening a lot to think about, maybe some things to challenge, and definitely some practical steps to consider.
Hope so.
Until next time on the deep dive, keep digging for those insights.